We're going to stay here all night if we have to, so let's get started.
It's time, America, for the #1 conservative common sense podcast that's calling out all the social justice, political correctness crap and putting it on the run.
Do you think you can handle it?
So hop in and buckle up and get ready to ride with two straight-shooting, tell it like it is, ex-street cops.
And they know how to party with few inhibitions.
As they give the special interest and weak-kneed politicians a swift kick in the ass.
Wow, is that legal?
With some good old-fashioned common sense.
Bring it on, baby.
It's Cop Talk USA with your hosts, Murillo and French.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Cop Talk USA 2022. I'm Roger French. I'm here with my good friend and partner, Dave Murillo. How are you doing, Dave?
Frenchman, how are you?
Buddy, I'm pretty good. I got sores on my ass watching football all yesterday.
Yep.
But,
them
sports.
Chiefs, man, the air went out of their sails. Something happened to our Kansas City Chiefs.
Well, yeah, but hey, Joe Burrows, he's got a Des Moines connection. Did I ever tell you that? His connection? His dad, Jamie, is a friend of mine. He's on my Facebook. He's a Facebook friend. He's also a personal friend. He coached at the Iowa Barnstormers and became good friends with my dad when they were all involved down there. He coached Warner, but I think he was the defensive coach. And then when he was down there, he brought his son, Joey, who was about up to about my hip, little kid. Yeah. He was there. And of course, Jamie used to be an Iowa State coach as well. So that's the connection. They spent a lot of time. He grew up here before moving on. Of course, then Joe went to LSU, went through school and came that high draft, went to LSU. And now he played pretty good. He's going to Super Bowl, second year player. How about that?
Just goes to show you what a small world it is. After he won his first Super Bowl, my buddy Kelly Willis and I, while still Des Moines police officers, we were all-day bodyguards for Kurt Warner and his wife Brenda and the kids. We were with them all day long. And then Alan Lazard, who's a receiver for the Packers, he played in my youth league for 4 years, and I got to watch him grow up. So, and I love football. It's cool.
Yeah, no, those guys, and his dad. Jamie's such a good guy, Dave. You'd really, really like him. He's down to earth and was really good friends with my dad. And that's how he's really more my dad's friend than I just know him from that. But he became my Facebook friend, and I do it. And I'm pulling
how proud do you think he is of his kid, man? That's just like,
I've seen some pictures of him out there. He goes to every game, and when you're an NFL dad, that's a lot of traveling. I mean, you're going to,
a lot of airports
every away, and him and his wife, they go to every game, and they were at the game yesterday. So I'm pulling against them, and I think LA is going to give them a run for their money. But
it's going to be a good game. I'm not in Bengals or Rams fan per se, but they're evenly matched, and it ought to be one outstanding football game.
Well, our friend Merle and Eric went to the game. They were out there. They bought.
Oh, really?
I asked them. I saw their seats. I said, "Are you doing an aerial view?" Because they were the very top
nosebleed section.
I think they paid like $900 for those tickets. I was like, wow. And but that whole stadium's an experience. Anymore, you go to these stadiums, they're $1 billion things, and they have, talk about money.
The NFL is the only sports organization that has its own day of the week.
Oh, well, I'll give you that. My friend. So what do you know? What are you seeing out there today? Have you, I'm going to bring this up. Have you seen this article where the Register is now revising how they cover crime? They're going to take a less hard look, and they're going to spend more time about the impacts of the community. They're not going to be doing mugshots anymore, except in extreme cases. It's a whole softer, more approach with consideration to community and social justice. More crap. Another reason why you don't want to see that piece of crap.
Roger, stop it. You're tearing me up with all of this sensitivity. Hang on, let me.
Yeah. That's why they're doing. You got to. I encourage our listeners to go read it. Read this. It'll make you just. It's unbelievable. I'm like, so what? You're going to downplay a homicide, and now you're going to talk about the social effects of the community. Really? Just give me the news, Yeah.
So, we're in the left-wing media, mainstream media. They're into pandering right now, and it makes them feel real good. The only thing about it is they don't realize how insulting it is to people of color. but it gives them a good feeling. It's kind of like pissing your pants in a dark pair of pants, because there's just not a whole lot that actually gets done.
Well, I didn't know a crime, subject A murders subject B, pretty simple, straightforward, but no, they want to talk about the impact of the community and the social, and law enforcement. And it's really scary. This country's going really weird places.
I can't wait till the midterms. We're in serious trouble, folks, as a country. These radical left wingers and these progressives, they're taking this country down a path that is not the United States of America. And you better wake up, realize that before it's too late. Thank God the midterms are coming.
Well, speaking of that, let's talk about our favorite councilwoman, our Des Moines, Deidre.
Yeah.
Deidre, and we're going to have her make some guest appearances on the show.
Yeah, she will. We're not kidding you. She'll be here.
Okay, tune in. It's gonna be fun. We're gonna hit her. We're gonna hit her here with the hard questions and the hard weapons.
Yeah. Well, here's what I'm going to tell you, folks. If you attack police officers, and we're aware of it, we're going to attack back. Okay, and we're going to make fun of you, and we're going to make fun of how stupid you are. So go ahead, feel froggy and leap, because old Raj and Dave got a little something for you.
We got a little something. Yeah, did you see how the council? She went in there with the last week, and she went in all bold and going to do this and do that, and the council they figured out a way to shut her down. Now for her to start make a proposal to do anything, she has to
get a second.
Yeah, she has to get a second, and nobody's seconding her. Nobody's letting her take hijack those meetings. They're not going to let her do it.
Yeah,
so
it's kind of like, you see a big show of hands that wanted to join Jack Nicholson and one flew over the cuckoo's nest.
I think we just know that she's such a piece of work, and the council shut her down, and they're going to. Dave, you saw that?
Yeah. Well, I stay up on all the political maneuverings at Des Moines City Hall. I was intricately involved in it, as an upcoming guest will attest to, for decades. And the council did the right thing. This woman has an agenda. She's an activist, and she was put there to be an activist. That's not what city councils are designed to be.
Well, she, they had some of her supporters there, and they were all saying, you're shutting down the first black woman. This is all, trying to make it a racist thing. No, this is not a racist thing. This is pardon my French, an asshole thing. And your representative's an asshole. Okay. She's trying to hijack this. She's trying to ramrod stuff through, and all under the name of social injustice. And of course she's a cop hater, and she's made no bones about that. And,
here's another thing too, Roger. Her job as a city council member is to set policy.
Yeah,
it's not to micromanage or administrate any city department. And she's got a real keen interest in Chief Wingert's department, and we're going to call her on it. She's not a cop. In fact, she hates cops. And, I spent 34 and a half years of my life there. I'm protective of the department as long as it's right. I've criticized my own department when they were wrong. But by and large, that department is one of the cleanest, most professional police departments in the country.
Well, absolutely. They do a great job. And, she took the position of Bill Gray, and I got news for that community. He did a lot for that. He's responsible for a lot of that streetscape up 6th Avenue. If you've been up there recently, how they put new sidewalks in, new streetscaping, they've made it very nice. And he did it, and he was able to negotiate and broker deals with other council people and work together in conjunction, and not bully and not threaten.
Yeah.
And he worked like most smart people do, informed and got them on his side and got things done for his district or his ward and his community. I don't see her doing that. All she wants to do is fist fight and raise hell and blame people.
She's got an agenda. She's an active participant in identity politics. Yeah. You're right, though, Roger. 6th Avenue looks nothing like it did when I came on the police department. I'm kind of missing the Why Not Grill, the Leaning Tower of Pizza.
Weren't you? Well, all the girls up there referred to you as Big Poppy, I think. That's why all the girls up there, you knew all the girls up there. We used to work a 2-man car together, folks, and David would go up there. Where's Big Poppy? There he is.
They called me El Guapo.
El Guapo. Yeah, I don't know what that means. I'm staying away from it. Get Ray. Ray, where are you, Ray? I need you.
No, it's changed up there, all for the better. So yeah, Gray did an outstanding job there. This woman's going to have to change her tune and understand she works for all citizens in the city of Des Moines, and she needs to get off that rant that she's been on about attacking cops, or she's going to have a long 4 years there.
She's gonna get all of her people there, and they attend the meetings and they raise hell, and they give them, and the council's just making they're making adaptation to that, and they're shortening it, how much you can say, what you can say, which they should. They got to get business done, and with her, she's going to either get on board and start working with people and tone it down, or she's going to have zero impact.
I predict she'll be a one-termer there, and then the people even in the Drake neighborhood will realize.
Yeah, when they stop,
to be like Des Moines' own version of Joe Biden. They're all going to realize how bad they screwed up by putting her on the city council.
When they stop getting things done and things don't get done, and that that's what's going to happen. So anyway, we're going to keep focus on her and have some fun.
She'll be here in the studios with us, so stay tuned, folks.
Absolutely. The rest stuff out there, I know Biden's been tearing it up. I don't know if you saw this. There's a deal on Fox has out right now where the border agents are all kind of rebelling down there. They had a meeting and a video leaked out where the head of the border patrol is talking to these agents, and I can't remember exactly where it was. And they were basically giving him a hard time because they were having the Homeland Security secretary come down there, and they didn't want him down there. And they're all upset because they can't refer to those people as illegal aliens anymore. And the border officer said, we can't even refer to these people as this. And there's some turmoil in that agency because of this Biden administration and their policies. So very interesting. Check that out.
Old Sleepy, he's doing a magnificent job everywhere he goes. Look at the hypocrisy here, Roger, if you will. He's very, very concerned about the Ukraine border, but not the southern border in his own country. What's that tell you? One of just many things. Everything this guy touches turns to shit. He's into this identity politics. Here's another little thing to ponder. He's proclaiming that his full intentions are to put the first black female on the United States Supreme Court. Imagine the backlash that Trump would have received had he proclaimed that it was his intentions to put a white male on the Supreme Court. Biden's a hypocritical racist, and he needs to be called out on that. But the media don't do it. Only place he gets jabbed is on Fox News and these forums like you and I have. The truth hurts.
Yeah, you're talking about him being hypocritical. Yeah, since when is it okay to say, you know what, I'm going to hire somebody and I don't care about their qualifications. I don't care about their good person, their criminal background. I'm just going to hire them because of their color. Now, back in the 50s, people used to kind of do that, especially when there was multiple candidates there, a black, a white, an Asian. The white guy always got hired. Today, it's completely turned around. Yeah. Now, if you're a white guy standing there with a black or an Asian guy, you're going to be the last guy hired. And that sword cuts both ways. And
Biden and Harris, though, you could successfully argue that they are a pair of identity politic first. They are the first set of matched president, vice president idiots in the Oval Office. They feed off one another because they're both incompetent. So they're the first matched set of imbeciles in the White House.
I just, and that was the whole thing. Remember, he got her as vice president because she was black. He had to have a black female. And when you just start hiring people because of their color, it's wrong. It's
insulting, Roger.
As a citizen,
insulting.
I want the best qualified person there. Let me ask you this: would you get on a plane if you knew they would hired the pilots based on their color, not the qualifications? I mean, hey, I got a plane here. We hired this because of their color, not because they're qualified. Yeah. I think that I promise you the airlines aren't going to do it, and they better not, because I won't.
Remember that old Dirty Harry episode where the hijackers asked Clint Eastwood, or the pilots in a hijacked airplane asked Clint Eastwood if he's ever had any flying lessons? Nope, not a one. No, you going to get on that plane?
Get on that plane? Yeah.
Well, wise up. But here, Roger, there's always a silver lining in all these storm clouds that the Biden-Harris jokester duo has created, and that is today, if the election were held today, almost 70% of all Americans say they would not vote Joe Biden in as president. They're getting a big, giant dose of this incompetent imbecile.
Oh, well, you still have some of the MSNBCs and people like that saying,
hardcore.
"Oh, we ran a survey, or we took a poll, and Biden would win over." Just it's bull crap. Wait, you polling people from your party at the station there in the bathroom? That's their poll. Anyway, well, hey everybody, I want to tell you a little bit today. We're going to go through some of our normal things today. We've got a great guest coming on. Somebody that I think you guys will like. He's a friend of Dave's. I'm going to let him tell you about Tom and what he does when we get him on here. We're going to, we got to do our fallen officers. And of course, wouldn't be remiss if we didn't mention, we would be remiss if we didn't mention our ass hat of the day. So with that being said, I'm going to go into our fallen officers a little bit, Dave, and not too bad. We lost about 4 of them recently. And I'm going to kind of read through this as I go. What I do is I get this information from a website called Fallen Officers Down. It's their memorial page. And let me get on my glasses because I got to be able to see. The first one's a Donald Shota. Donald was his last in to watch. He was January 29th. He was with the Vancouver Police Department in Washington. Kind of unusual. He was there, and he was killed by attempting to apprehend a robbery suspect. Was attempting to break into his own home. He got there and the guy shot him. So he was done. He was 52 years old, 7 years on the department. So our thoughts and prayers go out to him. The next guy we got is, well, it's not a guy, it's a young lady. Lauren Redmond. Lauren was a deputy sheriff there for the Loving County Sheriff's Office in Texas, into watch January 29th as well. She died and passed away from a collision while she was en route to assist another deputy who had made a traffic stop. And it was 4:30 in the afternoon, pretty good traffic. So we, these driving cars. Then we had, I've got 2 of them here. These are 2 officers who were killed in the same car. They were 2 deputies, Deputy Dane Northcutt, Nora Renette. They were with the Carroll County Sheriff's Department, Indiana. They were both in a squad car, and they lost control, and it killed them both. They were going to assist an officer who was in a chase. Driving cars, a lot of people don't understand, officers in squad cars, Dave, and you're aware of this. You put a lot of miles on there, and you're asked to do a lot of things, multitask when you're driving the car. People talk about, drive down the road texting, how distraction is. Can you imagine working a radio, looking at a screen, all those things, the lights, the siren? I mean, officers have to really multitask in driving, and then you're going high speeds because you got to get someplace and you got to watch out for other people. Very tough.
Well, unless you multitask on a routine basis, you're not any good at it. That made me think, Roger, when the Drake Diner homicides went out, I'm driving northbound on 28th Street to the diner from Ingersoll. I'm going about 90 miles an hour. I'm steering with my knee as I load my shotgun and talk on the radio to dispatchers. It takes a whole lot to multitask. And cops do it all the time, but sometimes Lady Luck's just not there.
Well, yeah, now you add the new technology. Everybody sees this new technology in these cars with screens and stuff, and then you throw in weather conditions on there. I remember one night coming down Ingersoll Avenue, going someplace, and I hit a patch of ice, and my car did a 360. I was all the way down. And fortunately, it just kept going straight, but I just spun. But Des Moines has lost we lost a couple officers in that traffic accidents, I think.
Here about 4 or 5 years ago, we lost 2 out on the interstate.
Yeah, and now those were due to a drunk driver, but road condition, everything. So we see this. So our hearts and prayers go out to those sheriffs that were out there and did that. And I hate it. Of course, as always, we have our COVID deaths, and they're still out there. They still mount. It's deputy sheriffs. It's corrections officers. It's everything. Wide range we're seeing. So I don't know. I'm hoping that'll slow down when the rest of it does, but we'll see.
I'm hearing across the country they're starting to see some peaks in this pandemic and a drop in COVID cases. So just we can only hope and pray that holds true.
Yes, I agree. Well, on to a little brighter subject and one of my favorite segments, and of course it's yours, Dave. You know what it is. You know what it's time for.
And now it's time for
Ass Hats of the Week.
It's time.
Yes, it's true.
He's a real asshole.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Raj, I've got a queen ass hat of the week today, and her ass got fired. Some actress named Jacqueline Guzman.
Oh, you got I had her too. That guy, yeah, she's a piece of work.
This piece of shit, this classless, insensitive left winger, got fired by her production company because she made a statement calling it fucking ridiculous, and I'll use that word right now because we can. That New York City streets were closed during for fallen officer, New York PD officer Jason Rivera's funeral. Now, folks, if your politics condone something like that, you've got some serious mental issues. Anybody who's passed away, I don't care what their profession is. I don't care if it's your grandma, your parents, sisters, but anybody that passes away is somebody's loved one. And for anyone to make BS comments like that about anyone's death is a low-life, classless piece of shit. I'm just going to say it like it is.
Dave, you're not going to get any argument out of me on that one. These liberals in New York City, and of course, she was talking about 22-year-olds have this happen. Nothing happens, but they do this for. Well, lady, be a police officer. And I got news for her. There's some young officers that pass away that get killed at 22. So don't try to tell me it's age thing. She got what she deserved. She had to get off all of her social media because people are coming after her. And you know what? Good. Next time she has a problem, next time she needs, because this is the same kind of person who'll call the police for somebody taking a picture of her. Next time you have a problem, don't call law enforcement.
I wish I could snap my fingers, Roger, and remove the 911 capabilities of every cop hater who has a cell phone. See how that works for them when they get in an accident or something bad happens to
them. Or
their
kid disappears. They'll be the first one crying at your doorstep. Find him. Or they're getting in a fight with their neighbor, and the neighbor threatens to beat their ass, and they're like, "Oh, you can't do that."
I saw a police spokesman for a National Police Association, and he was showing some passion, which I guess I can do upon occasion. I don't know. I've been told that, but he said that he was sick and tired of these Monday morning keyboard quarterbacks who are always riding the asses of police officers with their arbitrary, biased, subjective opinions about a profession they know nothing about. You know nothing about police work unless you've worn that badge. So do us a favor, and you'll look a lot smarter by keeping your mouth shut when you criticize a profession you know nothing about. And you'll be more respected for keeping your yap shut. I don't criticize physicians. Can you imagine, Roger, me walking into an operating room? I know nothing about what they're doing. I'd put some more stitches in that if I was you, Doc, and maybe put a little more betadine on that. And I don't know anything about being a doctor, but then I'm going to go in and criticize physicians.
Yeah, when I'm at Iowa State, I always want to walk over on the coaching side and tell the coach, "Hey, you need to do this, you need to do that." See how fast I get my ass thrown out there. No, you know what I would like to see though. Really, I would like to see. What are there? A million officers in the United States?
Close to a million sworn officers in the United States.
I'd like to see every officer donate $20 a year, $20. Give $20 a year to a fund that absolutely goes out and markets and promotes and does PR relations for law enforcement in general across the country, whether it be buying billboards, running radio ads, promoting the position of fighting against the anti-cop sentiment. We're not going to rely on city people, managers to do it, or police chiefs. They go out and they start this fund, and they go out, and I could see them doing, billboards in your cities and radio and stuff to promote the truth about law enforcement, the truth about officers and everything they do for them.
Well, if every sworn officer,
I'd love to see that.
If every sworn officer gave $20 a year, or maybe $20 to a presidential candidate who is pro-police, you're talking about almost $20 million going to the candidate. And it can be, I'm for Democrats, I'm for blue dog Democrats, I'm for moderates, conservatives, and Republicans. But we got to get these radicals out of office. They're absolutely ruining this country.
I agree, but I think we need to do more publicly, and officers do so many good things, to get that and pressure. If you have a CBS News that all of a sudden they're getting, $5 or $10 million to run ads, maybe they'll be a little softer. But I think we have to take the initiative, and I don't know what the number is. I know ad media is expensive, but I just think when you have 1 million members,
Here's what you do, Roger.
and when you add correctional officers into that, and more people than that, and sheriffs,
Here's how you do it. To all my fellow active and retired police officers across the country, you hire a PR company that actually knows what the hell they're doing, has experience in police matters, and you feed them all the information you want or can about a grievance you've got going with your respective government body, and let somebody like that turn up the heat on these elected and appointed government officials. That way they can't come back at you, because they like to do that. They like to pin you down, conduct unbecoming, or you shouldn't talk to the press, all this other BS. Have somebody who knows what they're doing do it, because it really torques government officials off when somebody's exposing them.
Well, and what some of the government people, and our next guest we can talk to him a little bit about this. As a city councilman, when you have a city council person like this nitwit Deidre, who badmouths your city and tells people they're incompetent, or the chief is bad and they're wrong and they're racist, all that does invites people to sue you and come after you and invite those lawsuits. And guess what? And if they win, they're taking money. You know who they're taking money from? The taxpayer. So this person you elected is helping somebody get money against you. If you owned a company, you certainly wouldn't start out by bad mouthing your employees, and exposing them. And she's a problem, and people like that are. And I know cities need to get some of them do. I think West Des Moines does a pretty good job of promoting their officers. Chris Scott and getting information out there. I think Dana tries down there to get information about here's the good things. I know Des Moines has a website, and if you sign into that or become a member or follower, you can see all the great things that DMPD does, and West Des Moines does. I think a lot of sites. I think Kevin Schneider does out there too. Getting cities to look at that, and shutting some of these nitwits up, or sitting them down and say, look, every time you badmouth the police department, because I know you have constituents that you got elected on this, you cost them money. You potentially support people who are after getting money. And
I'll tell you, Roger, I know for a fact they'll come after you. They'll try some BS behind the scenes. They'll drum up a case against you. You have to have your ducks in a row in order to legally go after elected officials or a chief of police who's incompetent, or anybody in government for that matter. You got to have your ducks in a row, and you have to be politically active. You just can't pitch a bitch and expect them to say, oh, Murillo's pitching a bitch, I think we'll listen to him. No, you got to go out and work on their campaigns. You have to work for them behind the scenes. You have to go door knock for them, and you have to be right. You can't be a Looney Tune, because only Looney Tunes elect Looney Tunes. Look at Joe Biden.
Yeah, there you go. Let me ask you a question, Dave. And you were on down there a lot longer than I was, and this would be a good question for talk. Did you ever get sued as an officer personally down there for doing your job?
Yes, I did.
How many times did you get sued, do you think?
Once, where I was named for punitive damages. Yeah, and that's a harrowing thing to go through. 2 weeks in court. Long story short, myself and another officer arrested 3 guys who were in a car performing sex on each other. We brought them down to, and we were called up there. Right. We took them to jail, and one of the guys was gay, and back 25 years ago, nobody cared about that as so far as how you segregate prisoners. So we put this gay guy in the central holding pen, and he got thumped. He got beat up by another prisoner. So this guy sued the city, and we all went to court. Billy Wallace was the chief of police in Des Moines at the time. I spent 2 weeks in court. And when cities pay actual damages and officers pay punitive out of their pockets, so when you have somebody trying to get in your personal pocketbook, that'll piss you off. Long story short, again, the jury listened to everything, and then they absolved us and found the city and us not guilty of anything. So, but if you unless you've gone through that, you have no idea what an actual lawsuit is like. That's
another stress factor of the job, but it goes on quite often. A lot of people don't realize, because every time somebody gets arrested, they're first saying, well, let's sue them. And in some cases, maybe an officer didn't do the right thing, and it wasn't criminal. So they wore them. I know the city pays out. The city likes to pay out money versus fighting it in court, I think.
No, the city will calculate out in rough terms how much it's going to cost for them to defend it. And part of the agreement when they settle things like that is that the city's absolved of any wrongdoing, but then they cut them a check and then they go off right off into the sunset and everybody's happy. It's not right, but that's what happens.
This is a good moment. Let's bring in your friend. Who we got? Who are you going to bring on?
Yep, I'm going to bring on. He and I actually. Let me preface this a little bit.
He's my friend. I eat the chicken coop with him once in a while. But go ahead.
You talk about two opposites who ultimately became really good friends. Our guest, this next gentleman, was one of them to me. Tom Turner is the former human resources director for the city of Des Moines, and it was Tom's job to come at me, and it was my job as president of the police association to go back at Tom. And I'm going to tell you, Roger, and I hate giving Turner all this credit, but he was a formidable adversary because he's smart as can be. He's got more degrees than a carpenter square. And he and I went at it, and I'll let him allude to who had the win.
Well, keeping you in line's a big job in itself. Tom, come on in here. How you doing, my friend?
Tom, welcome aboard.
I'm doing well, guys. I'm doing well. And yeah, I would say for the most part, my chief job was being a large hemorrhoid for Mr. Murillo.
Well, you did a good job, Tom. I kept a gallon of preparation H in the office.
You needed, and but that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
Now, did you call him into the office every now and then? Did you guys, or was it a board table and he sat on one side, you sat on the other, or how did those go?
We didn't have that many face-to-face encounters because Dave was president of the Burial Association, which is kind of the holding company for the various. I think there was a couple, 3 bargaining units underneath of that. And he had minions that would come in and do his work for him. Like Ray Gallardo would come in. I think at one point he was maybe chief steward.
Yep.
And I made a comment to Ray on Facebook. And I said, Ray was one of the best gentlemen that served as a steward that I'd ever run into because he presented what the issues were. We talked about it. He was rational, reasoned, and calm. And we can fix problems that way. It's when we get, way off base or, do something like some people get very upset and spin around, walk out or whatever. That's when you don't get it done, and every problem is a real problem to somebody, We may not view it to be that serious, but it's serious to somebody. And the question is, what can we do to address it? And if we can, fine. If we can't, we can't. And so I had that issue with Mr. Anderson, whose problem happened to be Mr. Murillo.
So you think it was there's some personal in there?
Oh, let me tell you,
Yeah, there was.
I've told Dave, I don't know how many times in the city manager's office, they had this long table right off of the desk. I don't know, Dave, if you've been in there, you probably been.
Oh, yeah.
And, I'd be sitting down at the seat trying to face the doors because, that's one of the first cues of HR, never have your back to a door. But so anyway, we're talking about what can we do to Murillo? There's a new article in Point Blank, or he said this in some article. And no matter what you would do, you say, you can't. I mean, the man's got a right to utter opinions. And the other thing I try to keep convincing the manager with is, Eric, you are the overall head of 1,800 employees. Murillo is a head in a way of about 500 employees. Why do you care? Why do you care? You'd be much better off just letting Dave say his piece and move on and do your work, and the two of you can both be happy. But I don't know if we ever got to that point. He kept trying everything until I think finally legal told him that it was just absolutely not possible to take Dave to task.
Tom, what pissed me off about him is he was always on an attack tangent with the police officers trying to reduce our benefits or kick us out of insurance policies as retirees.
Well, you remember when I tried to steal your retiree medical?
Yeah, how'd that work for you, Tom? Or how about this one? Remember when somebody said, you can't organize police supervisors? How'd that work out, Tom?
I think they got organized. And then when it got to the what was fun, and you'll like this, when it got to the point where we recognized that essentially what had done at the department, the way they operated, they had taken a lot of the discretionary supervisory tasks, doing discipline and things like that, away from sergeants, lieutenants, and many captains. And that's the key element for exclusion from representation. And once we got to that, that's when I said, hey, why don't we see if we can't just cut a deal and handle sergeants, and if we have to, lieutenants, and just go get on with life. I had absolutely no one was willing to do that. And I thought, well, at least that way you could have kept it. Because I think one or two captains got into the unit, didn't they?
Yeah, because you're spot on, because what happened was everything you just alluded to was actually the logic used by an administrative law judge, if you recall, in saying, yeah, you can organize. So I won that one, but I lost.
You did?
I lost. You know why? Because I actually supervised people in the detective bureau, so I couldn't get in the union that I
you were excluded from the unit.
Oh, yeah.
He excluded himself.
Yeah.
That's why I think I remember that, because that was part of the thing I suggested, is this will make Murillo happy because he can be part of the unit.
Yeah.
If you go ahead and voluntarily agree.
Yeah. One last dart in the back from you, Turner. I appreciate it.
Yeah, what can I say? But
how many of those how many of those battles would you say Dave won and lost? If you were keeping track, is he 5-0?
I'd say, I don't know of anything he really lost. He might have had something where maybe it's a push at best, but I think Dave pretty much had the upper hand, because what he had a pretty big mouthpiece in what was the name? The Point Blank, and then I don't know what.
Point Blank, and I had
City View.
City View.
Yeah, it was called Point Blank then. I had that. I had my radio show on KIOA.
I can tell you is that Thursdays we all went down to find the City View or the Point Blank and open it up to see if we could find Cop Talk and see what Murillo. I mean, that's the honest to God truth. We had to see what's the current feud, because it was kind of fun to watch, frankly.
Do you remember my pet name for the city manager?
The Town Tamer.
Eric the Town Tamer.
Yep.
French, he hated that name. And that's what I called him in Point Blank all the time, which was one of many things I did that pissed him off. Plus, the guy was was mean, and he's a bully, and that those type of personalities piss me off. So I can be an ass.
Now, Dave, did he ever call the chief directly? Did you ever have to go up and see the chief and have the chief? Was he sitting in the office, or was he always on the phone?
He never come over personally. He didn't have the balls to do that. He wouldn't show up in person, but he'd call the chiefs, and the chiefs would call me into their office and try to scare me. And I said, hey, take your best shot.
The part of the reason he had to do that, Dave, is because he did not hire you. He's not the appointing authority for anybody in the police department except unsworn and the chief.
Correct.
The chief hires everybody else. So the chief is the only one that could terminate you or discipline you by virtue of the civil service law.
Correct. Well, and Turner, as you well know, the smart police chiefs used me to their advantage. They had me carry things or issues or subjects, topics that they couldn't without getting in trouble. So I did it. But I can tell all the listeners here who watch this, the only way you're successful doing what I did is you have to study what you're doing. You have to be politically active and connected, and you have to know the law. We had a previous police chief tried to stop me, ordered me from talking to the media as president of the Burial and Protective Association. First stop after that chief of police cut that order was the lawyer's office. And then the next step was federal court, because you can't do that.
Yeah.
And then this chief of police sends one of her lackeys up to talk to me to convince me not to do it. And I reluctantly did that, but there was terms and conditions that went along with that, and the whole thing was dropped. But it goes back to one of my pet peeves, Tom. There are some dumbasses in government. I mean, educated idiots.
That's found everywhere. Not only in government, but everywhere. But
do you guys think in today's climate, it's the need for, and I think I know the answer to this. I'm going to ask it anyway. Do you think there's still a need for the civil service and all the unions and the protection out there? Because I know departments are struggling to hire people, and they're paying hiring bonuses. And I'm sure, Tom, you never saw that in your tenure down there, where they would, they're paying people $5,000 to come over, and they're waiving academies. They're struggling for people.
Yep.
But I just saw, just to say this, to interrupt, Portland, all the crap that's going on out there, Dave, they just put a deal out to hire retired officers back, and they had, out of the whole Portland, had two of them, only two apply.
Mhm.
So this is a real challenge to get officers. But
It is.
go back to my question. Do you guys think this need is still there for civil service and unions and everything for
I think Tom would agree with me here. I think civil service has its place, but I think it needs to be modified. And here's why. The Civil Service Commission in Des Moines, composed primarily pretty good people. They are also charged by state law with forming promotional lists. And unless you're on that list, you don't get promoted. The chief of police has to pick from this list. I think that needs to be massaged a little bit legislatively so a chief of police has more latitude and leeway in who he or she hires. Now, conversely, I think the Civil Service Commission has a place in discipline because sometimes people are screwed over by city officials and they're supposed to act as a neutral body to hear all the facts, and they can reinstate you if you were grievance was levied against you by a city official.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that, Dave. I think the civil service plays a key role, and it's a cheap litigation to determine that outcome of that employee discipline. It's cheaper than an arbitrator, by several $100s, $1,000, and much cheaper than litigation.
Correct.
And litigation is still available after that for the employee, if they're not, or for the employer for that matter, if they really want to go and try to continue the case. But I think that is an indispensable and valuable role. Unfortunately, civil service doesn't cover that many. If you look at its initial coverage, I can't remember what the population level was, but probably 80-90% of the cities in in Iowa, are not required to have a civil service role. They're on their own thing. And what I liked about it is it kind of took some biases out of the hiring process. Although, as you know, Dave, there's a lot of lobbying of those commissioners, particularly when it comes to a promotional list, as you well know.
No,
and that's a problem. And I don't know a good way around that because that depends upon the individuals.
Well, they also have
ethics.
they also have stepped in when officers have been fired by a chief and reinstated them over the chief's wishes. Now, I don't know if that's good or bad, but it seems to be some kind of a safety net for them as well. A second plan.
Absolutely.
I know a number of officers have been fired for whatever reason, and they've applied and appealed, and some of them have come back. So
sometimes it's a knee jerk. Now, I will tell you, in all candor, I moved to. I think we terminated a guy over in the building department. Wasn't a sworn officer, but he was doing some very bad things. And even though he had a clean record, and we knew he would be coming back, we wanted to make a case or just make a statement. So he was terminated, and what happened is, as expected, the commission reinstated him, but they recognized that his conduct was bad, so they reinstated him, but without any back pay. And he was out of work about 6 to 9 months, a long time. It was a heck of a penalty, but we had to get the attention of some people over in that department about their conduct, particularly with some of the customers.
Can they do that? Can they add conditions when they do that? So I'm going to reinstate Dave, but with these conditions?
The commission has got a great deal of leeway on that discipline. In fact, we researched this. They have the ability to actually increase the discipline. Mm-hmm. So if the city went forward with Murillo and said, anybody that's got a gray beard like that, we're going to have to suspend them, for 2 weeks or something, they could say, no, that's worthy of termination. And they could fire him.
Have they come back has that happened to a couple of people where?
No, but we had a commissioner threaten it during the course of a hearing. When I say threaten it, he did it the way you're supposed to do it. He basically made an inquiry of the counsel for the commission, and you know who that was, Dave.
Yep.
And his inquiry was, now, do I understand the law correctly that we can, in fact, increase any discipline that might have been offered out by management if we deem that's the proper approach? And she gave the correct response, and the answer is yes. They had great leeway in what they do. So, but what's nice about it is it's really a good protection for the employees to make certain that it's just not an absolute knee-jerk reaction. So, we'll come back to Dave. Basically, I'm told find a way to fire Dave. Well, one, he doesn't have authority to do it. The chief has to do it. Secondly, there's no way to fire him, and we could fire him, but he'll be back to work, and he'll be in an even stronger position in that case after that.
After they pay him some back pay too. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And we'd rather have him work for his pay and not get paid for not working.
Tom, I know you, Roger and Tom, I know Tom will agree with me on this point. Although there was an adversarial relationship at times, Roger, between Tom Turner and I, there was also a lot of positive interaction. If I had a police officer in my organization that had royally screwed up, Tom would call me, and say, "Hey, Murillo," and he'd lay the case out. You know what needs to happen. And after I did a little bit of research and talked to the hierarchy over at the cop shop, it wasn't uncommon for me to pull a police officer into my office and say, "Hey, you probably ought to leave, to resign on your own terms and conditions, because you ain't going to survive this." And it kills me to do that, but that's how you maintain credibility.
That's right.
And I think Turner would agree with that.
Well, I think you both have some mutual respect going there.
Oh,
You're respecting
absolutely.
each other.
And what Dave said is really important when you talk about in a union environment, what you want as an HR guy. I want the strongest union guy I can find, somebody that the employees respect, will listen to, and value their judgment. And I was fortunate at the city of Des Moines because we had a couple. We had Dave, and I had one of our other unions. Dave, you remember Steve Piper?
Yeah.
He had that, the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
The others, maybe not so much. But that is in fact true, is if there's a problem, deal with it now while you can, and let the guy cut the best deal he can to exit the organization if need be, or you guys work with him to take care of his problem, whatever it might be, and make him a good officer, because you guys both being officers know that, or having been officers, the worst thing that you want is a bad cop. You don't want that. You only want somebody you can trust when you're out on the street or wherever you're at, and who's not going to create a bad reputation for you guys in the city.
Roger, I can still remember Turner's phone calls to me at the police station, and they go like this: "Murillo, Turner." Oh, here we go. Murillo, Turner.
Got a problem.
Yeah. Conversely, the late Bill Stowe, who was a fantastic mutual friend of both Tom and I, his calls to me would go, "Sergeant Bill Stowe." Okay. We loved us some Bill Stowe, the late, great Rob Borsellino from the Des Moines Register. He and I got along real well because he was a brilliant writer. His common statement when he called me at the phone was, "What are you doing, wise ass?"
That's the best one.
And then Chief Mulder, good, bad, and different. It was always just, "Hello, David Mulder. Hello, David Mulder." Okay, now I got to go upstairs to the chief's office.
We got to go. We got to get him back on the program. We've had.
He did a great job.
He was the best chief I saw while I was at the city.
But yeah, without a doubt, he's sharp. You know what, Tom? We had him on as a guest. I know you watched the show. Mm-hmm. He is as sharp today, Bill Mulder is, as the day he left.
He is, and I don't know. He's in his 80s, maybe.
Yeah. But our chassis all get old, and we get achy and creaky. But Bill Mulder is intellectually as sharp today as he was any day he was at the police station as chief of police. So they're 18 years.
He's a good man. He was.
Roger, here's another thing too, and because of COVID and the death of my dad and a bunch of other things, Tom Turner and I are teamed up. We will do government consulting here in the near future. As soon as I finally put that, and I'm going to tell you folks, this man right here, Tom Turner, he's an expert in human resources, HR matters, top to bottom, and he and I together, we have a tremendous amount of experience in government. Tom, tell the folks a little bit about your educational background, because it's impressive.
Well, it's a little bit odd, but I, undergrad degree in chemistry, and then I did some graduate work in political science and business management, and then a law degree from Drake. And been involved in human resources since I graduated in 1981, a long time ago, and doing a lot of stuff with the labor relations and, negotiating contracts and dealing with all kinds of issues you get in human resources. And, we'd go into work, and it was one of those things, it was typically every day was a Forrest Gump day. Life's a box of chocolates. We don't know what we're going to get. We come in and we get a phone call, and the next thing we got an employee that's, drunk and in a company vehicle, or we have a couple that are using one of the snowplow trucks along a dike for a hotel room, and doing things like that. It's always something that we have, and it's fun. That's why I enjoyed my career. It was a lot of fun, and I met a lot of good people while I was doing it.
You guys, I'm sure the two of you put together can help out some cities. And nobody's going to tell you much that you guys probably haven't seen or done with Dave.
And we're serious. We're a lethal 1-2 punch. Whether you're a government body that wants to hire us, or you're at a police association. Hey, we'll travel. We'll get on the plane and come see you. You get a hold of us. We're going to launch this website here soon. It's just been one thing after another that is procrastinating that, but we're going to do it. Turner and Murillo.
You guys will be good. You guys.
Yeah.
Now, Tom, I got to ask you. In all your years down there, there's got to be one incident. We usually do this as police officers. There's got to be one incident that stands out. Was the goofiest thing that ever happened. The one incident in your tenure at Des Moines with an employee, they did something really stupid. Now, I'm not going to let you use Dave. Okay. No.
Well, let me give you
funniest
one
incident
that's not from the city for protection. The one I have at the city that was the wildest involved a regular citizen, but I had one where I had an employee that she had been a department manager for 25 years and apparently had never terminated an employee. And we had to terminate this employee because she was grossly incompetent. She was running an animal shelter in a spot down in Florida where I was working. And her name, I can't recall. Delphi. Delphi was the employee's name. And so as we walk into the room to talk to Delphi about her termination, and normally the supervisor terminates the employee, not the HR person, because I'm not in their line of authority. Well, unfortunately, Marilyn didn't know what to do. And I kind of looked 25, okay. So we went in and I talked to Delphi and basically said, look, we've come to the end. Here's all the things you've done, and we just can't continue this way. So your employment ends. And there they had a humane way to do it. You got a 90-day window for termination after the notice, and that's fine. And so Delphi was fine. I think she understood it. She understands she got a little cushion. And that's when Marilyn then, the department head, who was her boss and should have been firing her, she turned to me and said, Tom, can I say something to her? And I said, sure. What do you want? Go ahead, speak to her. So she looked at Delphi and said, Delphi, I just want to let you know that you have been the best employee I've ever had, and you've just done a marvelous job. That's when I said, fired. Delphi, will you excuse us for a moment? And I brought Marilyn back in. I said, Marilyn, how dumb can you be?
Oh, my God.
I mean, that was the worst thing I've ever seen. As far as employees, there's been many things, but the one I didn't share with you was we used to have a guy that came down to city council meetings dressed as a reindeer with a red nose and wore a skirt.
They knew who you were, Roger. See?
Oh, man, if that was Rogers, let me tell you, I had the unfortunate event of being in the men's room at a urinal when up walked the reindeer. And let me tell you, I didn't know what to do at that point in time, but I figured I was done no matter what and got out.
Well,
I remember that guy, Tom. I remember him. He got a lot of publicity too.
He came a lot to the meetings and would speak, and I think he left town and went somewhere east, but I don't know what. I don't even recall his name, but he just had a very well identifiable outfit.
Tom, I don't think you ever were told. You talk about odd things. Roger will remember this. This is how far back we go. But speaking of odd things, there in Des Moines used to be a guy, and his name was Leonard France, and they called him the Rat Man. You remember this, Roger?
Oh yeah. He'd drive around with them.
Yeah, he drove around, Tom, in a Ford station wagon full of laboratory rats and wild rats. And when he pulled up next to you, there'd be rats on his shoulders. They'd be on the back seat of his car. They'd be looking through the window at you. He would literally have hundreds of rats. And you wouldn't want to stop him and open up that door. Just the aroma of urine would knock you off your feet. I just thought about Leonard France.
I was just saying, whatever. I mean, I don't think there's a charge. You can drive around with rats on you in your car if you want. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, but in Des Moines, you can't have more than 3 pets. So if you had more than 3, you might have been able to cite him for having excess number of pets.
Turner's on this, French.
There we go.
He's on. Well, I'm going to tell you, today's council meetings, I don't know. I think they top it with some goofballs they got in there now. I mean, well, they got it with a council member now. I mean, let me ask you, Tom, what do you think about this Indidra Shoemaker?
I haven't watched her or watched the council meeting, but from what I understand, she's just going to be a blessing to several council members that are still there that I know that I'm glad that's one of their peers. They're going to have to learn to deal with it.
Oh, they're shutting her down, but she's making the goofiest ones on the council look like way conservatives. I mean,
she's that's probably why they like her. Takes the attention off them.
Yeah,
I think so. Well, Dave, how about you, Dave? And what's the number one interaction you have that you remember, the issue that you had with Tom? Do you have one thing that you remember you guys worked on? Some employee that did something wrong or something?
It probably was the one where he and I got at each other, and Eric, the town tamer, was there, and legal was there. That's when the city of Des Moines tried to separate retired officers from participating in the active officer health insurance plans.
Oh yeah.
We got into it. I mean, there was some actual barbs being traded there and names called, and it got ugly, and we won.
Yeah.
It went to court.
Well, you got an AG opinion, Matt.
Yeah, that's right.
Who was the guy on the South Side Council?
Archie.
No,
Brooks.
the later one. Matt somebody. But you got he got an AG opinion that basically said you couldn't do that.
Yeah.
And that took care of it. But that one that was an interesting one. In fact, that's the only time I had an alleged death threat. There was a retired officer that was terminally ill with cancer, and I can't recall his name, but he had called Mike McPherson and said he was looking to take care of me and the mayor. So I was told that they had an officer out here watching my house or something. I don't know if that happened or not, but it was never made personally to me. I didn't get anything in writing, but the only time I've ever been aware that might have been the case.
You start talking about people's health insurance, it gets serious.
Some of the goofiest shit that I know Turner had to do it, that pissed me off, was Eric, the town tamer, enacted training for all city employees called Total Quality Management. CQI.
The biggest waste of $600,000 I've ever seen.
Pissed away $600,000 of taxpayer money to talk to us about, Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, it was an antiquated business philosophy post World War II. I think then the Japanese kind of sort of invented it to get the best out of production, the best performance out of their employees. All I remember, Tom, is sitting at the airport in the cloud room with some rum-dum teaching me this crap. And then
they were professors from Iowa State.
Yeah, he pulls out a fish bowl full of marbles. And that's where's the goldfish? You got water in there?
Well, Dave, you will appreciate this. We hired employees over in the Public Works Department, nice folks, but all they had was 8th grade educations.
Mm-hmm.
They had not been exposed to stuff like that, and we made them sit through it.
Wow.
And,
Thanks a lot, Tom. Thanks a lot, Tom. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it was a complete waste, and I was never so glad when it finally ended.
Yeah,
Tom, go ahead, Dave. I'm sorry.
No, I think in retrospect, I've always thought it was resume padding by Eric. He wanted to look cutting edge, and this was one way to show the council that he was a progressive, happening dude.
Dave, it was the hot topic at HR folks for municipalities, and I'm sure it was with the ICMA. That was a hot topic at the time.
Yeah.
So that's a feather in his cap to say, well, I'm training my entire workforce in quality improvement systems or something. I'm not sure what it was.
Yeah.
Tom, what's your opinion about what's going on down there today with I guess the person who replaced you down there in Des Moines? Are they doing a good job, you think?
That's Jim Wells, and Jim can't help but do a good job. He was trained by me.
Oh, there you go.
He can't help but be doing a good job. I haven't talked to him in probably a 3 years.
I hope so, because if he does bad, that goes on you too.
That's right.
Yeah. He ain't a bad sort. I get along very well with Wells, and he wants to come down to the property I have, Roger, down in southern Iowa, and do some bass fishing. So, if I'm going to let him, he can't be a total jerk.
Don't be doing anything wrong, David. We all know. Well, we all got to get together and head down to just for our listeners, we like to go down and meet at what is the chicken coop down there?
The chicken restaurant.
Just the chicken.
The chicken. Got some good food, good pizza, and service pretty good.
That's a good place. Yeah, we all get along very well, folks. So these type of meetings have been happening on a regular basis up until now when we're live on air.
And French is a good guy. He's a good guy. He hosted me up at the ball game once, and it was a fantastic time. It was a great treat for my son
You and your boy?
who,
Yeah. How the boy?
had a great time there.
How's he doing? Doing good? He's
He's
JAG
doing
officer.
well, and hopefully he's doing very well. He's back at his at the base in Tennessee and doing his work, and he may have good news for me in the next few weeks. We'll find out.
Uh-oh. Sounds like additional family member?
Well, I don't know. I can't say anything, but that may
Yeah.
be the case.
All
You know,
right, well,
Tom,
we'll check
Roger's
back with you.
late dad, Rod, was a very good friend of mine, and I knew him for 30 some years, and he was very successful in his business endeavors, but probably without a doubt, one of the most down to earth, generous people that I've ever met in my life. And he bought the police department about what was it, Roger, $50,000-$60,000 worth of body cameras.
Bought the
when they
original
were
body
having
cameras for him.
having a tough time
Thank you.
budget wise finding money to put them on officers, and been a huge booster to Iowa State for decades. I miss him tremendously, but I got to give my partner here credit. Roger Dodger is just like his dad. He likes to have fun. He's generous. There's a serious side to him, but Roger and I have been buds now for probably about 40 years. Went to high school with him, but I don't want to talk about that, Roger.
Well,
Well,
you know what they say, you are who you hang out with. So I like to hang out with good people, and hopefully it looks good. Of course, I like standing next to Dave because he makes me look good.
well, in deference to you, I did not wear my Hawkeye shirt to that game.
There you go. I like saying Dave's a little bigger man than I am, so I like standing by. It makes me look good. Hey guys, it's been great. We're running to the end. Tom, thanks for coming on the show.
Tom,
It was great.
job.
I appreciate it.
We'll have
Been
you back
fun.
on, Tom. Thank
We'll
you.
have you back on. David, gonna roll?
Yeah,
I'll
got to
talk to you
roll.
next week.
Talk to you, buddy.
Great.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
See you.
You've been listening to Cop Talk USA with your hosts, Murillo and French.